Call the meeting to order. Roll call, Pledge of Allegiance first, please.
Roll calls first.
Roll call, sir? Well,
Yep.
okay. Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Committee Member Scott Sims,
Present.
Committee Member Laura Ross,
Present.
Committee Member Robert Miller, excuse me,
Present.
Committee Member Gus Douglas,
Present.
and Committee Member Kim Bean.
Present.
Awesome. You're all present. We can stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would somebody like to do the invocation?
That was a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I am sore. Are there any agenda changes?
No, sir, not that I know of.
The question I have is if I have something I wanted to bring up, do I have to make a change to the agenda or can I bring it up like in the reports section?
You can bring in the report
Okay.
section.
Thanks.
So the first thing on the docket is doing the election for chairperson and vice chairperson. So if you'd like to, we can start nominations for chairperson.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Laurel as the new chair.
Okay.
This is for the current meeting.
For the
which will-
current calendar year. Yes, sir.
Well, point of clarification is, we're going to reconstitute this entire board after we reduce it from 7 down to 5
Yes, sir.
with the quorums and those discussions.
Yes, sir.
So if we appoint a chairman today and they're not part of this new group that goes forward, unless they volunteer to do that,
No, we have to select someone from the five of us
for this meeting.
to go forward. If we want to change it the next meeting, we have to submit it as an item.
Understand.
It can't be,
Stand corrected. Okay, we can change that
yeah.
before this meeting day's over then, if that's the
Okay.
case.
Are there any other nominations for chairperson?
I second the nomination for Laurel.
Beautiful. Do you accept the
I
nomination?
accept the nomination. Thank you for the,
Awesome. Well, then can I just get like an aye and nay situation just to make sure everybody's in agreement?
Yes. Aye.
any opposed?
Awesome.
Your show.
I nominate Robert Miller to be the second.
The vice chair?
Yes.
I'll second that.
I have to renew my familiarity with the rules of Robert's Rules of
They'll keep
Order,
us
but I'll
straight.
do that. All right, thank you.
Christian always
I
does.
accept if it passes
Any discussion?
unanimously.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Next, we have awards and presentations. Florida Sunshine Law Training.
Hello, everybody. For the record, Christian Gowan, City Clerk. So this is just a quick review of Sunshine Law, public records, code of ethics, all of that. Should just take maybe 10 minutes at most, but just want to review that. Do you have the presentation? Thanks. So, like I said, just going to review quickly Florida Sunshine Law and public meetings. So the Sunshine Law applies to all of our advisory committees as well as the City Commission, state, local agencies, including the advisory boards, and is meant to ensure government transparency. Simply states, or not simply, but if you get to the simple part of it, it states that meetings must be open to the public, reasonable notice must be provided, and meeting minutes must be recorded, which we take care of. The Florida statute, basically, again, in brief, says any communication between two members of the same board on any matter which may reasonably or foreseeably come before the board must take place at a time and place of which the public has reasonable notice and location where the public has reasonable access, aka a meeting. All these discussions need to happen, basically what we say, gavel to gavel. You gavel in the meeting, you can then discuss the matters of the board. Anything that is before you or could foreseeably come before you should not be discussed outside of that. So again, what is a public meeting? It's any discussion between two or more board members about things that are before you or could foreseeably come before you. If you see each other in Publix and ask how each other is doing, that's fine. You don't have to, swerve left or cause any cart backups. It includes formal and informal discussions, and it applies to in-person, phone, email, social gatherings, text messages, all of that. Again, we're responsible to properly notice the meetings. They should be publicly announced at least 24 hours in advance, and they have to be held in accessible locations. So all public meetings, such as this one, the public has the right to attend and to observe. In many cases, such as this one, the public can participate at designated times. And again, meeting minutes are recorded and made available. It's important that you know this so you can avoid violations. So this is some things we say that you should watch for. You should not talk about matters during recesses. If the board goes into recess, that's like, that's like you're out of a meeting, basically. So you shouldn't be discussing matters of the board in a recess. Do not talk about matters that come before this board or committee before the meeting. Don't talk about it after the meeting, just in the meeting. Do not talk about such matters between meetings, even at City Hall. Do not pass notes or whisper to other members during a meeting. Don't talk about the committee business in social settings. Don't talk about votes, hearings, or actions after the meeting because whatever you are discussing or have discussed could come back in a different form in the future. And you should obviously avoid emailing, texting, or calls and other forms of communication on board matters. And an important one that we also like to bring up is you can't have a conduit or an intermediary. So you can't go tell something to your friend to go tell another committee member what you're thinking, because that would obviously defeat the purpose of the Sunshine Law. So the state takes it pretty seriously. There are consequences of violating the Sunshine Law, which range from civil penalties, fines up to $500 per violation, can in some instances lead to removal from office, criminal penalties, and, actions taken by the committee can be deemed void in some cases if the Sunshine Law is violated. So best practice, like we said, is conduct discussions only in notice meetings. Be cautious with your electronic communications. You can, for certain things, it is okay to kind of use the clerk's office as a sounding board if there's something that needs to be distributed to the committee, whether through an agenda or something like that. Send it to the clerk's office, singularly, not copying anybody else on the committee, and then we can help distribute that information if it's appropriate to do so. Obviously, we ensure the meeting notices and minutes are properly handled, and you can always reach out to our office, the city clerk's office, if you have any questions or are in doubt. Again, I said we'd touch on public records. So that's Chapter 119 of the statutes. Public records are pretty much everything we do. It's all documents, papers, letters, maps, books, tapes, photographs, films, sound recordings, on and on and on, made or received pursuant to or in transaction of official business by an agency. And we have a public records policy that we follow and abide by, but just so any email, for instance, or text message even that was dealing with committee business could technically be requested in a public records request. The person in custody of that record, so for instance, if it was a text message, which obviously I recommend not conducting any business over text message ever, you would be responsible for producing that record were it ever to be requested. And then Chapter 112 is the Code of Ethics. So all board members, committee members are considered public officers. That includes our elected commission as well as the appointed officers. So you cannot solicit or accept anything of value such as a gift, loan, favor, or service given for the purpose of influencing votes or actions. You cannot do business with your own agency. That really doesn't apply here. Cannot use your position to secure a special privilege or benefit. You can't hold conflicting employment or contractual relationship. Can't misuse privileged information. Again, just go through it. Can't appoint, employ, promote, or advance relatives. Can't vote on any measure which would inure to the special private gain or loss. So a conflict of interest, there actually is a form that is required to be filled out if anything ever came before this committee that anybody would think they would have some financial gain or loss from and wanted to abstain from voting. There's actually a state form that's required to be filled out in a procedure. But of course, you have to disclose your personal interests, financial interests, and again, there are penalties for violating the Code of Ethics, including removal from office, censure, and civil penalties up to $10,000. And that's really all I wanted to cover, just a quick review of those 3 areas, or 4 areas: public records, public meetings, Code of Ethics, so I guess back to 3. But if anybody has any questions, like I said, the clerk's office is always available, and it's just good for us to always review this information.
I'd like to ask a few questions.
Sure.
And this is not meant to be snarky or rude or anything, but how do you get anything done? If we're here for 4 hours for the entire year, how are we supposed to get things done if we can't talk to each other? What do you recommend? I mean, we're not a board that makes monetary decisions and things like that. We're an advisory board, and we can't, like, I can't go to Scott and say, hey, what do you think about this issue? And now I'm in violation if I ask about that. How do you recommend we conduct that? Send everything through you and you send it out? How does that work?
So that, I mean, yes, that's always the best practice, is to send things through the clerk's office. Whether that turns into longer agendas, things like that. If the board and the committee feels they need to discuss a large number of things, then, we schedule on the agenda. It may be that the committee and then in turn the commission says, hey, the Veterans Committee is dealing with a lot of stuff. Let's go, let's not have 4 meetings. Let's have 6 meetings a year. Let's have, whatever it is. Those are all things that we can look at, schedule. But whenever you want to discuss business that you want the committee to discuss, it should come through our office. You should send it to us singularly, whether me, Tristan,
lesson learned.
or whatever.
So, like, for example, the items that I wanted to talk about in this meeting, I sent to you, and proper business practices in my
Of course.
civilian world, non-political world, was to copy the people that they attack, that they
Of course.
affect. Well, I got my hand slapped and said, no, you can't do that. So I send it to you, and I still don't see it on the agenda, any of the items I brought up on the agenda.
Yeah.
So how am I supposed to, so I communicated with you, how are they supposed to know what I communicated with you if I can't communicate with them?
So my understanding, at least from what you sent, it was something that we had discussed in crafting the resolution. So I think we're going to touch on a lot of that when we're talking about the resolution. We didn't list them as separate
But going
items.
forward, if any of us has something, hey, I'd like to discuss this at the meeting, they send it to you, you include it in the agenda, and when we get our agenda packet, now we know what my right hand is doing in my left hand, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we all understand that's how we need to go forward, because we don't want to,
Yeah, in this capacity as a city advisory committee, yep, the Sunshine Law just does
and then
apply.
I have one other thing on the Code of Ethics, the 3rd thing down, it says cannot do business with one's own agency. So I am here as a veteran of Winter Springs. I also belong to the Oviedo American Legion Post. I know there's 2 members here that belong to the Winter Springs VFW Post. I know there was an issue in the past about licensing or who got what for what contract for what event. Is that going to be an issue if these 2 are part of that organization that wants to bid on a service for an event?
Well, this committee is not a
Right.
decision-making
I just
committee.
wanna make sure, because that jumped
So
out.
you would not be involved in awarding any
Right.
kind of contract or anything like that. I don't even know if it's a bid or whatever it is, if that would come before the committee.
It wouldn't, but I want to make sure that the 2 current and any future members of the VFW know that just if they are part of this board, doesn't mean they have to not represent the VFW as well.
Oh,
So
absolutely not.
I
I mean,
just
and
wanna make sure that's
obviously,
clear.
outside of this board, you're still a resident of Winter Springs. You're
Right.
still able to attend, let's say it's being decided at the commission meeting, you're still able to come to the commission meeting and say, hey, I'm so-and-so
Right.
representing this agency, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, definitely does not preclude you from, being a member of the VFW, American Legion, anything like that.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions on the training, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do?
Nope, I don't have any questions.
Thank you for presenting that for us.
And I think you all have a copy, but I'll send another copy again, just so you have it, all the information.
Okay. Next, informational agenda. Is
There's
it
no items on that.
no items on that?
No, ma'am.
Next is public input. Do I read what it says here?
If you'd like.
Okay. Anyone who wishes to speak during the public input on any agenda item or subject matter will need to fill out a public input form. Is there anybody that's going to be speaking? Make sure they fill out a form and turn it in.
I have a few questions.
Oh, okay, is this the appropriate time to take questions?
Yeah.
Usually, public input isn't a back and forth in regards to
Okay.
communication, but he can, by all means, come up and address his questions to you guys, and then later on, if you'd like to address what he asked through conversation, we can do that.
Okay. You just need
he
to
would
make sure you
just-
fill out a form.
Yeah, he would just need to come up. You would approach the podium. You have 3 minutes if you're not representing any sort of group or association, and we would just need you to state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Can I do that now?
Yeah.
I only have one question. My name is Matthew Smith, resident Winter Springs. I just had a quick question. Thank you for allowing me to ask my question. It's only one question. Who's in charge of scheduling these meetings?
The clerk's office.
Okay,
This
and-
is a reschedule of a meeting that we had that we did not have a quorum for, so it's not normally at this
Okay.
time.
And going forward, is this the time that it's going to be
No.
scheduled?
No, sir.
Okay.
It's
I
usually at
just wanted-
5:30.
Okay, excellent. That's all I had. Thank you.
Any other public input before we move on?
At some point, we're going to close this meeting and then reopen it to formulate a new board that will be constituted
No,
of less than,
no. It's,
well,
look at the agenda.
I'm trying to get it clarified right now, because earlier we had 7 members, and we have to have 4 for a quorum. Is that correct?
Correct.
I would like to have some discussion here today about the possibility of having 5 with a few floaters, so that you only need 3 for a quorum.
That's what it's going down to, is going down to 5, so the quorum would be 3 at that point.
But is that already that's already a done deal, so
That's within the
doesn't have-
resolution.
So it has to, okay, so it's been approved then.
No.
Well,
and
no,
we don't-
you're
We're
in the
gonna
process
discuss
of
it.
getting it approved, sir.
We're going to discuss that here today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. I don't want to get out of order on this. I just want to make sure we get to the end of the meeting and I miss my opportunity. Thank you.
So the next would be the approval of the July 11th minutes.
Motion
Does
to
anyone
approve.
have any changes or edits? No changes or edits?
I make a motion that we approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just have clarification on who did the first, and who wants to be first, who wants to be second?
I was first.
Okay, just want to make sure.
He's the chairman.
All right. And then everyone was all in favor, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Just wanna make
Yes.
sure. Awesome.
Okay, so public hearing agenda, this part is where we're going to discuss. In your packet, what they did is they outlined, the city outlined what they'd like to see changed. And then they drafted, and I think the lawyer already looked at it, the new one. So did you want to take a minute to look to see what there was?
No, I read it a couple of days ago. I didn't bring it with me.
Page
but,
21
yeah,
of what they gave you.
It's in the,
So if I may, Christian Gowan, city clerk, like the chairperson said, we met actually, so as you know, we kind of took a comprehensive look at the boards. The commission decided that the mayor should meet with interested parties and stakeholders and kind of craft some suggestions, which we then staff then met with the mayor, and in turn legal helped us to draft this resolution based on that meeting. So what it's trying to do is kind of provide clarity and structure, and the proposed changes are the following, right? So and I'm just going to run through them because there's not too many, but I think they do a good job of
Page
clarifying.
21.
So in the proposed resolution, section 2, it's proposed that the committee will make recommendations for items to be included in the city newsletter. It will recommend veterans to the commission for various awards and recognitions throughout the county, help to develop and recommend a process for the hometown hero selection, and continue, of course, to promote involvement in city events, specifically, the Celebration of Freedom, which is our July 4th event, the 9/11 Memorial event, and Veterans Day. The restated mission, like I said, allows all of these variety of activities to occur. Another thing that we added even between our last attempted meeting and this meeting is that specification of quorum to say that 3 members will constitute a quorum, because we also set the number of members at 5 rather than currently, in my opinion at least, ambiguous, no more than 7. So we'll take it to, at least propose to take it to a 5-member body, specifies in there specifically 3 members or more constitute a quorum. Continuing down the resolution, in section 5, language has been added providing that committee members can submit items to the agenda no later than 10 working days prior to the meeting. Any committee member submitting an agenda item is responsible for providing any and all background information to be presented to the committee. And language has also been added to designate the chairperson as a liaison with veteran organizations. And then finally, there's a proposed amendment to Section 6, which is administrative in nature. It just removes the reference to a specific title of an employee as the staff liaison for this board, and allows the city manager to designate who the staff liaison would be, or liaisons. So those are the changes proposed in here. And now, of course, if you'd like to discuss or ask any questions.
Did that answer your question?
Well, I have a few questions.
Okay.
First one is I have a sheet that's off the city's website, which I believe is may not be correct. It shows seat 4 is being vacant. Is that
Correct.
still the case?
Correct.
Okay, my next question then is, if a commissioner for seat 4, is that the only person that can appoint a representative from his district or her district?
So what the code says is that for a period of 30 days, that commissioner is the only one who can appoint. That vacancy's existed longer than 30 days, so any member of the commission could appoint a member. Again, that member list that you're looking at is the current 7-member makeup. So that vacancy would still exist, but yes, any
So
commissioner could appoint someone.
Can we ask the commission then to authorize a change in which they would, at a meeting, unable to appoint someone from their district, would automatically entitle someone else on the commission to try and fill that seat if they were aware of a person that was willing to serve?
Well, they can always
Rather than wait 30 days, or,
Yeah.
because that puts you 2 months down the road in between city commissions and bringing these issues up.
I mean, that can always be recommended. I think also any commissioner can recommend somebody. If they know somebody's interested, they could recommend someone to seat 4 and say they're interested. But I think, it's at the commissioner's discretion. So that's set in the code right now by ordinance, right? So, and I think it's there to let the commissioner who's responsible for that seat decide who they want. And then if they don't exercise it in the 30 days, which is usually, most months 2 meetings. So you have 2 meetings and you all are meeting quarterly. So there's usually plenty of time to fill a vacancy before a meeting of this body would happen again.
Well, I'd like to ask you to maybe ask the city attorney to see if there's how this could be changed then to change it. In other words, number one, why make it mandatory that each commissioner has a responsibility to fill a seat on this board when they know that our terms of office are up on a certain date and time? And if he's contacted by someone else in advance, they can fill that seat immediately. But if the commissioner waits until the seat becomes empty or vacant, then it goes to the next city commission meeting, which sometimes could be 3 months, 3 weeks, or longer away, depending on the time of the year. it seems to me it would be more, it would be easier for the veteran community here if someone could be appointed immediately by some other commissioner. Who knows? He's got 3 or 4 people in his district who are willing to serve, but it's not in his purview to make that.
So chapter 2 of the city code, which is where this provision lies, it deals with all of our boards and committees. So even if it was changed, it wouldn't apply just to this committee. It would then apply to all boards and committees. Like I said, it's an ordinance adopted by the city code. People who are interested in serving on boards fill out applications. All those applications are provided to the city commission for all of them to see, regardless of if they have a vacancy to fill or not. So I think the commissioners are well aware of who's interested in serving, at least by way of application. And
But at that city commission meeting, when the seat is empty, if that commissioner says, I don't have any candidates, there could be 5 or 6 that have already volunteered, but they just wait because they're in different districts.
Does the verbiage say must wait or may wait?
we'd have to pull it up. I don't know off the top of my head, but I
Anyway,
believe that
must.
I believe the vacancy belongs to that commissioner for 30 days.
Can they cede it, like I cede my time to this person?
I suppose they could.
So,
But it's their, well, anyway, it's in a very technical
but
environment.
it sounds like it's not just here, it's all, so it would have to be addressed higher than this board. So, what else you got?
Well, I like the city well, anyway, it's one of my, the other thing is we have a document which points out 4 meetings a year. I think it is 4
Quarterly.
right now. Quarterly. I would ask this group here today and maybe other people that are volunteers here, would a lesser number of meetings be worth considering, or are we all happy with 4?
I think we need at least 4.
Okay,
At least
that ends
4.
that
It's too
conversation.
much time
So
in between.
4 it is then, and not more, because someone mentioned a lot more. So 4 is the number. I think that's pretty much it.
Well, just my comment on that part there is I'd like to see it go up to 6, but that's just my opinion.
We can we can ask for a special
Right.
in between if we need to.
Because just in my mind, meeting how we meet every quarter, that's 3 months to 4 months to get anything done.
And I think once we get in a routine of what we do at each of the meetings, we can see where we maybe need to have
I agree with
something
that.
else. But for right now, I think 4 is a good place to stay. What do you think?
I
Okay,
have no problem with 4,
Okay.
but I do have a couple questions myself. What's it gonna take to get the time changed on it? I mean, we had a schedule for later,
This,
and now at 4 o'clock is not convenient for some of us.
Yeah, so this meeting is, so the original meeting was, I believe, two weeks ago. And so we weren't able to establish a quorum. The only action that the members who were present could take at that time was to set a new meeting date. So based on who was here at that time, we proposed that date, or they proposed that date, staff was available. The normal meeting time would be 5:30.
but because we didn't have everybody here last time, this is the time we
I
got.
didn't even know about it.
Did you get an
but-
email?
I,
Yeah, the email, the city's pretty good about sending out the emails, so. Any other questions?
I did have one last question, it just occurred to me. The new commission would be 5 with a quorum of 3.
Correct.
The existing commission, that one that we just were putting away, had an at-large member,
Correct.
which was me.
Correct.
So is there a possibility that we could ask the city commission to consider 2 floaters, that would be 2 at-large,
that's what I'm asking.
that could be appointed, who would be kept appraised of everything going on, like in a jury where you have the 10 members of the jury, but you have some people in the background that are perfectly aware of what's going on, and they can stand in if someone's not available for the next meeting. So if we have a meeting and there's only 2 that are present for whatever reason, at-large members would be available to serve, as I have been now for quite a while, at large.
Right. So in the current proposed resolution, it says alternates shall not be appointed for this committee. That's what that would be considered, would be alternates. If you wanted to suggest that change, you could. So based on the discussion here and everything, we're planning on bringing this, or based again on your recommendations, bringing a form of this resolution to the commission on the 28th. So that's Monday, right?
So if we make
There's
any
5
changes,
members here.
It has to,
It'll be my recommendation to the commission that they keep the current makeup. Obviously, it's at their discretion. Because, as you mentioned, you're serving in that at-large seat, which is technically going away. It's
Well-
going to be my recommendation that they keep the members.
So we would be confined with a 2-week delay then if we decided to consider at-large possibilities.
more than 2 weeks because we have to meet again before the commission meets again.
Yeah, I know, but, so it gets delayed 2 weeks.
Well, so what I'd
This
say.
commission meeting doesn't approve because there's a recommendation that 2 at-large people, or alternates, whatever you want to call them, be considered to be approved by the city commission, which only they can do. And if they say, yeah, that's fine, we'll have 5 members and 2 at-large.
Well, I want to clarify
city clerk
that.
make it happen.
Yeah, I want to clarify that because there would be a difference between at-large and
Call them alternates.
alternates, right? Because if we're calling it at-large, right, then we're still at a 7-member body and all
I
that.
will not stand on terminology.
I know.
It's a problem.
I understand.
Intent.
But again, based on the recommendations, you can certainly recommend that, and if the committee agrees to presenting that recommendation to the commission, we can still bring that on the 28th. Again, the ultimate, decision-making authority lies with the commission. But
Okay, I have a question. It's a very simple question. How many commissioners are there in Winter Springs?
5.
5. Okay, so that allows each of them to have their own person, but the mayor doesn't get to select somebody, right?
Correct.
And we don't want to have an odd number because then when it comes to voting, it's a nut roll. So 6 is not a good number. So it's either 5 or 7. The whole reason we went from, you guys are recommending 7 down to 5 is because according to your records, we have since I've been here, the only time we didn't have a quorum was this last meeting, which was a communication error. 2 of the meetings were canceled by the city without even us coming and saying we didn't have a quorum. I think we can still staff a 7-member committee with 4 being needed for a quorum. I think that it needs to stay 7 members, 4 for a quorum, take out the adversarial language. That's kind of where I stand, because we have 7 people that want to, are you willing to leave? Do you want to leave, or you want to stay in your position? Where are we in our positions? Who's in the number 1 spot right now?
I'd have to look at the
Who's
member
on
list.
number
I don't
2, and
remember
when
who's
does their
seen
term
one.
end?
Your seat too. So the terms are also addressed in the resolution, which weren't previously
Right, but
addressed
we
in the
don't know-
resolution.
I know I'm in number 2 because I know that Commissioner Johnson requested me to be appointed. When I looked before all this started happening, I didn't see anybody else appointed by anybody. They were all kind of in there, volunteer, they
When we
went wherever. I don't know when people started, when they ended. Yeah, I know we want to stagger them, but that's my, I think that we're a strong enough veteran community that we can do 7 with 4 for a quorum.
I agree with that. I second that.
Well, we need to have discussion, though. That's just my one opinion.
Well,
And then there's no at-large.
before it goes to,
Well, there
when it
is.
goes to discussion, I would, which it will now here momentarily, I would, anyway, so if there's a second on this motion, then I'll have to make an amendment to, I'll request amendment to it, which will kind of put us back to where we are right now anyway, which is to leave things pretty much the way they are right now, but just add 1 more alternate in. In other words, 5 members, 2 alternates, rather than complicating it by going back to 7 members with 7 members with 4 for a.
I don't understand how 7 and 4 is complicated.
I'm sorry, well, it's just numbers.
Yeah.
It's
7
numbers.
members,
I mean, to
if
get,
all the spots
to
are
get-
full,
to
4.
get 4 members here,
So that means like if we have, let's say they have an unfilled seat, we only have 6 members, we still would need 4 for a quorum. Okay? So there's ambiguity in how it's written now. And that's what we're trying to get over, is not to be ambiguous. I think 5 is kind of, because I know there's people that have put applications in that would like to be part of this board, and I think it would be important for them to be part of this board. And In fact, the position that, it's another Winter Springs person that actually has connections to the local VFW, I would give up my seat to this person because I think that they need to be on this board. But right now, we have 5 people. There's no space for this person.
Well, and if I may, I would then go along with your recommendation, because we have several people here today who could stand up and say they were willing to make these 2 that we need right now, because right now we only have 5. And I'm the alternate, or whatever you want to call me, but so I'm not even on this list. So if we get some signal from the people in the audience that they would be willing to be considered for these extra 2, then we go back to the original plan, which was 7, with a quorum of 4. But right now, I don't know that we have anybody. I know a lot of people here, but I don't know if any of them can stand up
How many
and say,
applications are in the
I would
queue?
like to be a member.
For this board specifically?
Yes.
3 that I know.
At least 3, yeah.
So we
3
have
that
at
I
least
know.
3 people who have taken the time to fill out an application and want to be part of this board. The 5 of us here, I think, want to continue to be on this board. I think that we need to keep it at 7 and 4.
So how do we pull at the next, okay, fine, but at the next commission meeting, they'll approve it, but they'll approve for 5 members, but we won't have the 2 extra members.
No, I'm saying that they
Until
need to
some
change
point-
this.
Until some point when the city commission makes an appointment of the volunteers, because they're the ones who will go through this list, which is allegedly in the city's possession, and they will pick 2 of those members.
So there's really 2 choices,
And I'm
right?
sure they will, but
I'm saying they need to change this.
Right, there's really 2 choices, right? You could recommend as a committee that we take this as it's written today to the commission, or you can say, I want to take this to the commission with recommended changes.
Yes,
So that's
do
one of
that.
the recommended changes that she is recommending. What we're going to do is we're going to present the resolution and the recommended change and say, hey, your Veterans Committee recommended XYZ. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the commission,
Right.
right?
fine. Okay, so we recommend 7, we
So
have
we
5.
haven't-
They need to appoint 2 more.
Are there any
City
more
Commission.
discussion on this? Can we vote on
No,
what we
I'm
recommend
done.
on that? Okay. So 7 and 4, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's one suggested.
So let's just clarify that, right? So as I understand it, for Tristan, who's taking the minutes, a motion by Chairperson Ross to recommend the committee be made of 7 members with 4 members requiring a quorum.
Correct.
Who seconded the motion?
I will.
Both of Sims.
Mr. Chair, or Committee Member Sims. Okay, and then as I understand it, everybody was in favor of that motion.
Yes,
Correct.
aye.
And were there any other recommendations?
I have a question, and thank you for taking the time to update this. It needed updating. Clarify the mission statement. The one part I have a question on, or would like some additional, and I know since to change it is a lot. It says promote involvement in city events. The 3 big ones are 4th of July, 9/11 Memorial, and Veterans Day. You don't do anything for Memorial Day. With the fact that we can't talk to each other in between meetings, and the city is doing all this planning, and we love the city that plans this, and they work with different entities. Is there a way, and I don't know if it needs to be here in the resolution, or if it needs to be kind of an informal or formal, at least on record. I think that we should have one member of our committee that's like, okay, for example, Kim is going to be the liaison with the city for our board for 4th of July. And she, just her, not the entire board, can be invited to any kind of meeting, so to make sure, like, protocol, like, hey, what goes first? Does this go first? How does this work? Is that something that you guys would entertain as the city, so that we can be involved and there's a communication?
I don't see a problem with it, but Brian's
Okay.
going to talk to it.
He needed to stand up anyway.
Good afternoon, Brian Dunnigan, Director of Operations. So I think you're on the right track for probably what's going to be discussed at the next meeting of this board is coming up with some specific roles and responsibilities for each board member to serve as in a liaison capacity for various city functions, including like July 4th, perhaps Veterans Day. We've also talked, depending on what action the commission takes, 5 or 7. It would be helpful. I know several of you are involved with not only the VFW, but other veterans groups within the community, for your board to designate perhaps Gus as the, just as an example, a liaison between your board and the VFW. So that way the staff has a clear understanding of roles and responsibilities. And then as far as planning events and things like that, yeah, we certainly could talk about that and have meetings with that designated liaison. It may not be like planning meetings. Some of those meetings get really into the weeds with event
Right.
planning. We have the fire department here, police department
Right.
here, but there could still be conversations between city staff and that liaison, whoever the liaison is, perhaps for Veterans Day, and we could go through and talk about what the event's going to look like and get input on behalf of that member that's been designated as a liaison. If that
Do you
makes
guys have any
sense.
more discussion on that? Do you like that idea of being able
It's a good
to,
idea.
communicate?
I would totally agree with that.
Okay.
I appreciate it. So I don't know if it needs to be included in the resolution somewhere, that there's a liaison?
Yeah, so the only liaison specified in the resolution is the chairperson between the veterans organizations, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be in the resolution. I
Okay.
think it can be basically an understanding among this
Right.
committee
I just
that
want to
you
make sure we've
can
had the conversation.
basically appoint or designate someone as a liaison
Okay.
for certain things.
I have one other question. We've been talking about the number of people and the dates that we serve. I understood I took over for
Michael.
Isaac.
Oh, for Isaac Diaz. Okay.
Michael was still here. And Isaac's term was up, I believe, this year.
So
We need to figure out,
right. So what this resolution does,
Does it start us all
we're
over?
basically wiping away
Okay.
the past existence of,
Okay.
of whatever you've served, right?
Okay.
And we're saying, just because I know off the top of my head, for instance, you're serving in seat 2, the chairperson's serving in seat 2, it retroactively runs you with whoever the commissioner is in that seat. So
Okay.
Commissioner Bruce, her first term expires in 2026, right? So it would basically say the February, is it the February?
Yes, it says February.
Yeah,
February
February
1st.
1. So February 1, 2027, your term date
Is ending.
is there's a vacancy.
And
or
I
if
can
you,
say, I can request, I would like to be considered to.
Correct,
or-
correct.
And you can serve how many times?
3
3.
consecutive terms.
all right, thank you.
When is my term up?
I have to look.
We don't know, it, but
So the at-large,
Who appointed me?
Well, how long is the term?
4 years.
4 years.
4 years. And actually, that's a good question.
It is.
If we're keeping the at-large seats, and I'll clarify this with the attorney, because we had to do this for, we recently merged the Parks and the Bike Board. I had to define the at-large seats as well. So I will get with the attorney to define that. In their case, it was, I think it's like, instead of February, it's December or something
is that
like
something you can communicate to all of us, saying, here's the
Yes.
seats, here's what seat you're in,
Exact-
here's the date?
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that helps us look out for, oh, hey, I know
Oh,
this one's
absolutely.
coming, and they're, like, let's say he's getting tired, and he doesn't want to continue, so I can start looking for
Absolutely.
someone for his seat when I know when his term is coming up, you know?
Yeah.
Or is it up?
Yeah. Is it already up? Okay. So with that recommendation, I think we only had the one recommendation, 7 and 4. Are there any other discussion on the proposed changes that the city made? I would like to recommend that we, with the recommended changes, that it goes to the commission to be considered. Do I need to do a vote? Oh, more.
No,
Go ahead. This is the time to do it.
because I'm serving at large, if you would be kind enough to, work out some, I don't know how this is gonna work out. I mean, if they just say, fine, he's not really on the commission, therefore, his 3 seats are available.
Well, who's your commissioner?
He may have already appointed someone.
But who is your commissioner?
I don't know who
Okay.
appointed me.
Where
I
do you
would assume
live?
it was
Where
somebody-
you live, who is your
it was-
commissioner?
It would be Mr. Diaz right now,
Okay,
and he may have someone else in mind right now for various reasons, I don't know.
but
He
that's
may
what
have
I would
somebody
think, you would
else.
just slide into that, but
And so
who
then
knows?
I will be, and that's the way, that's fine, it's just that I wanna make sure that, you all realize that might happen,
Right,
being at large, because again, I haven't
Has Mr. Diaz made a recommendation for anybody to add to the Veterans Advisory Committee?
Not to date, because we haven't.
And he's certainly had his 30 days.
Well, I think somebody's serving in seat one. So that's another thing that we'll have to clarify at the
Okay.
meeting, right? So currently there's someone serving in seat 1, 2, 3, 5, and 1 at large, which is Mr. Miller is the one at large. So if it was the current 7-member vacancy, what we would present is a seat 4 vacancy and a second at large vacancy.
Okay.
So if it stays at 7, if it stays at 7, my understanding currently is that all 5 current members would remain on the board. There'd be 2 vacancies. If it stays at 5, I believe there's 2 approaches, right? They can either say, I still want all 5 people to be on the board. Mr. Miller would then be slotted into seat 4.
Okay.
Or I suppose the commissioner from District 4 could say, I want to appoint somebody else.
And he would have 30 days to do that. And if he doesn't do it in 30 days,
Yeah,
then
I mean,
it's
he could do it that night. He could do it, he would have
Okay.
30 days.
Okay, so we won't know that until the commission meeting.
Thank you.
Anything else before we say, yes, this is what we want to send forward?
And this is going to get proposed on their meeting on the 28th, right?
Correct. April 28th.
At what time is it? What time is the meeting?
6:30.
6:30. All
it's
right.
28th.
Okay. Is there anything else you need from us on this issue?
Nothing else on this issue per se. I think, and I'm only looking to Brian to make sure that, because we had talked about it previously. So kind of what we're looking for going forward, best case scenario, assuming everything goes through, is we're looking for you, by the time the next meeting rolls around, what we are kind of hoping that you all can take a look at and maybe take a stab at and bring out some ideas is related to the Hometown Hero program. So I think for the last couple of years, you all have recommended 1 or 2 people, something like that. But we're kind of looking to formalize that process of the nomination and naming it and everything like that.
Actually, the board, last year was the first time the board had anything to do
Was it
with
last year? So, but we'd like to look for you then for recommendations on that process, just on how you kind of could see it going again.
All right. So the 3 items that I wanted to discuss that I mistakenly sent to you all, so it shouldn't be news, but so the newsletter submissions, I know it's in the proposed, so that would be one way to get things out for that. My question is, today is the 22nd, Earth Day, Happy Earth Day. What is the deadline for newsletters?
I look to Brian.
Is it slippery slope? Is there a set date? Is there?
So typically, the city newsletter is published on the first of the month, each month. We'd like to have all submissions, this is what we ask of our own departments who are submitting informations, no later than 2 weeks before the end of the month, so that we can try and aggregate all of that and compile it into the newsletter.
Okay, so it's too late for May at this point, but we could talk about what we'd like in the June and July newsletters
Sure.
at this point. I mean, hoping that, we are in agreement that we want to at least start doing the newsletter letter part. So who is the point of contact that we would send it to?
You can send it to Christian,
Okay.
and then he could share that with our public information officer for inclusion.
PAO. Is there a certain format? Do you need it PDF? Do you need it just, what?
So it depends on what you're submitting. I mean, some of our departments will submit just a short blurb and leave it up to the communications division to add the graphics or design to that, or if it's a map that needs to be included.
Okay.
It could be a flyer for an event that we typically try to keep all of our branding succinct and synergized in terms of what everything looks and feels like. So if it's a flyer, we do have to be careful about what we do and don't put in the city newsletter. It's typically not an advertising platform for initiatives that are not directly correlated with the city. So it is city business related. But just as an example, if this board were hypothetically going to speak about nominations for the Hometown Hero, there could be perhaps a blurb in the next upcoming newsletters to begin submitting those applications through the city clerk's office. Those should be obviously presented to you all for consideration at the, is it July? board meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be a submission idea, but we do have to be careful about like promoting. I mean, there's a lot of great events happening in the city that not only are serving the veterans community, but a number of wonderful organizations, Girl Scout troops, Boy Scout troops, JROTC. From like we can't get into being an advertising platform. So I
Right.
just want to be clear on expectations as far as what, just because you submit something, we do have standards and guidelines that we follow as terms
If
of what
we
we put in the
submit
newsletter.
something and it doesn't meet that, would your department reach back out and say, hey,
Yeah.
this doesn't work? Can you
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah,
we don't want to
we-
miss a spot to.
Correct. And we've done that before. We've had other people from the community ask us to include things, people who aren't on boards in the city newsletter. And, we just, remind them in a very respectful way, tell them what the idea of the city newsletter is intended, or what that service is meant to serve and the purpose of it. So.
Okay. Any questions on newsletter? So we're looking at June and July. So obviously June, I think, needs to be something about how to submit Hometown Hero. What do you think? I don't mind writing that up and submitting that. Is that all right? Okay, so
That's
I've got that one. For July probably needs to focus, because we're going to meet again in July, in time for that. So August would be the one that we want to have the 9/11 information in.
Correct, and that would be something that we would do anyway, because
Okay.
that is a city event that's on the city's event calendar that the commission approved back in December.
Okay, I have a question. The
yes.
city of Winter Springs does not do anything for Memorial Day that I know of.
Correct.
Would you publish something in the local area that's happening for veterans? Hey, I want to do something for Memorial Day, where can I go? Or does it have to be something in the city of Winter Springs?
Typically, if we're going to cross-share, we do share a lot of information. So there's a lot of services or events that the city doesn't engage in that the county does, Seminole County government. So we, just as an example, and not veterans related, but like we don't provide animal services in the city, right?
Right.
So if people have questions about animal control, or occasionally we need to share information about animal services, we cross-share a lot of the information that Seminole County government does.
So Seminole County's Memorial Day service would be something you would hopefully put in the main newsletter so people could,
Right. If
attend.
yeah, that would be something we would consider.
but I can't do that because it's too late. But I'm just putting a little bug there that you may
Right.
want to have. Okay. Because look, I'm Joe Citizen veteran in the city of Winter Springs, and I look at my newsletter, well, where do I go? I'm new here. I want to do something for Memorial Day. What is available? City of Winter Springs doesn't do anything, but Seminole County does.
Right.
So that would be great. Okay. July, any subjects for July you guys want to? See, so here's the example of Sunshine. They want, if there's, you were kind of on the spot now, because we're not in the groove of bringing this. How can we, I can look at people and we could say, I don't know. But I would really like to have something veteran-related in the July newsletter. July 4th is covered by the city. Is there another article or something that's going on in our community that we need to make sure that veterans know about besides the city event? We could do Hometown Hero again.
The only other thing I can think of, and it's not done by the city of Winter Springs, but it's for veterans, Honor Flight.
Would you be willing to do a short blurb on that? And
I
is that
will.
something, would the city maybe publish that or no?
I mean, it's something for veterans and they have to sign up for it.
You're a veteran in Winter Springs. Here's your opportunity
And it's
to,
also, guardians are
Sure.
needed as well, and anybody can be a guardian.
Yeah, so we would have to obviously review that information and see if it meets the criteria for inclusion in the newsletter. I know that we've had Honor Flight in the past. We've used one of our facilities, I think, for some planning meetings. There was no really formal relationship other than I think they rented the space at the senior center, I believe. That was a few years ago. So I'd have to review what was being sent and review that with, the city manager and communications director. Again, I just want to be clear on expectations, and we do kind of walk that fine line that, we don't want to be the people that say no to everything, but we also, understand that, if we say yes to,
it opens the door for many others.
it does
Yes,
potentially.
absolutely.
So, and it's a
Can you write
balancing
something
act.
up and then submit it and see what they think about
I can
it?
try, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other, just this is off the top of my head, is the Veteran Service Officer Program, for example, is a service that the county offers, that, you know, we don't have that staff position on staff. So that's a role that the county fills. So, you know, that would be an example of a service that we could highlight and share with those who receive the newsletter.
So if Honor Flight, what you write up, they say, no, we don't want to touch it, maybe we can do VSO, something
Yeah.
VSO related for July. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, so our homework now is, before we come to our meeting in July, is have ideas for August, September, and November.
Exactly.
So that's, when you come next time, have those ideas so we can discuss them here, because we can't discuss
Exactly.
them out.
And we'll basically how we would approach it as staff, it'll be like a standing agenda item. Discuss the newsletter topics for the months of whatever, you know.
Right,
Sounds good.
okay. All right, the next one was Seminole County Veteran of the Month. One of the things we thought maybe this board could do is make a nomination for a Winter Springs resident to the Seminole County Veteran Service Office. Obviously, I don't think anyone's prepared to make a nomination right now, but for our July meeting, please come with someone's name, a Winter Springs resident that you would like to see be nominated by this board to the commission as Veteran of the Month. Is that, because we can't really recommend it. It has to go to,
Yeah.
no?
And I might follow up with you later just to learn more about that process, just
Okay.
because I'm not as familiar with that designation. I don't know if it would have to go to the commission or if this committee could, you know, take on that, you know, recommending somebody and, you know.
I would, if I was
filling out
on,
an
if I was in the
application
big
or
chair for the real day, I would probably say, you guys got that. I want to
Right.
do the hometown hero, you guys can do Seminole County.
Right.
But it's up to them to decide, I
Right.
think.
So I might just follow up with you to learn
Okay.
a little bit more about that and then could probably give you a better answer.
Thank you.
And that would probably be 2 or 3 months in advance too, I would think, because by the time it gets approved by our commission, goes up to the county, and then they look at it, it's,
Right, it's a process.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I would like, I mean, that's one of the things that we can do. We can recognize,
Yeah.
and that would be a newsletter item we could put out, say, you know, because sometimes family members, their veteran doesn't want to be involved or is not involved in the community, but their family member is involved and they want to make sure their veteran is recognized. You know, we had a Veteran of the Month that turned into Veteran of the Year, you know, so that sort of thing. And to have a Winter Springs resident be selected for that, that's kudos to the city for drawing veterans to the city and veteran-owned businesses and things like that. So we have a little bit of homework. Anyone else have anything they want to see our board do? So by the time we meet next time, it's July. So July 4th will be over.
Whatever happened with the suggestion of the flags?
The flags, oh, the banners?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask the board if they would allow me to make my presentation to the new commission, but I have to schedule it through the city clerk. Are you guys still okay with me recommending that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll probably ask to be put on.
So there's one meeting in May 12th. We can look at that one and tentatively schedule it for then.
Now, would it be an informational again, or would it be one for where people can say, yes, I want you to move forward and the city get the information for it? Because I realize not everyone has seen it, but it seemed like at the last one, they were ready to, okay, yes, I want the city to find out information, or no, I don't want the city to find out information. There was nothing they could really do.
Yeah, I think just so that we can get clear direction, we'll put it on as a regular agenda item, basically. So it won't be at the beginning, but they'll be able to, if they want to vote on something or provide
Okay.
further direction,
I
then
appreciate that.
they can.
Thank you. Do
do
you need
that.
me to email that again?
Just, yeah, put
Okay.
it to the top of my inbox.
So when does it?
So I would,
Kind of going to show up?
today, I would expect that to be on the May 12th agenda. I mean, obviously, have to look at that agenda, but I think the May 12th agenda will probably be a good spot for
Okay.
it.
Because I think when I originally started talking about this last fall, I said, you know, we found a time when I spoke with some of the city people, they're like, you know, the best time is going to be after Christmas and before whatever event, just because then they're taking a banner
Yeah.
down and putting a banner up, that would be the
Oh.
best time. And they're like, oh, we can't do it this year. I'm like, I know we can't do it this year, but it may be even too late
Understood.
for 2026 at this point. I don't know. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the budget process right now, but
Right.
obviously the earlier you present it, the.
right. Well, it was, yeah. Okay.
I know.
Anything else for this board today? July, you guys have homework, right? Christian's going to let us know about who's in what position and timing. You guys are invited to come to the next commission meeting to see how they vote, if they're going to vote for our 7 and 4, or if they want to move, because right now it's 7-ish and 4-ish.
Yeah,
Um,
correct.
If they're going to change it to 5 and 3 or change it to 7 and 4. Is there anything else that we can discuss between gavel wraps so that we're legal? Anything else going on over in the VFW that, no?
Well, if you're here for the meeting at the end of the month, you can, yes, you could always stand up under your 3 minutes and make your comments about how you would like to see this whole thing.
Right, for
in case
that,
they
yeah.
haven't read their
And
minutes.
I think I might get more than 3 minutes because I'm part of the committee, but I don't know.
The mayor might give you 5.
Maybe,
Right.
maybe,
Since you're speaking for a group.
but we'll see. Okay. Anything else?
So if you all are done with this, I think the only thing left on the agenda is
We have
the second public
Support,
input.
Yep, public input. Is there anyone now that has public input that wants to come share and be recorded and make us smarter and do better for our city? No one? Going once? You do. It's easy. They'll give you a crayon. You can use the crayon. Yeah.
He was Army, not Marine.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Paul Dillman, 388 12 Oaks Drive, Winter Springs. All right, the only thing that I wanted to say is for the newsletter, the Winter Springs VFW has the county service officer come 2 times a month. So that's a really good thing to go in the newsletter and we can share it on. That's all I had, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't you
I was going to include that as well. But that's a different city, so I have to,
Oh.
yes. So that's one of the things in the newsletter, and they can strike part of it, but also Seminole County Veteran Service Officer comes to the Oviedo Post too. So she comes like 4 times a month so that you don't have to pay the $5 toll to go over to Sanford. So if we submit it, we'll put all the dates in, and then if they decide that, no, we can't put Oviedo dates, you can strike the Oviedo dates and just have Winter Springs dates, I think I would rather have too much information than not enough. Anything else? Anyone else have comments? Sir, I know you said you just had the one thing at the beginning. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Thank you for making time to come this afternoon. I know it's not a normal time.
Thank you for having me. No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. All right, I'm looking for the end, right? Do I just gavel? This concludes, what is it? 5:02. This concludes. Thank you for. There we go. Now we can't talk to each other anymore.